Well, Rob, thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk a little bit about the Leandro decision. Can you please tell me what the main issue was in the case?
The issue was, for us, I'm from Hoke County, which is like a rural district outside of the Fayetteville area. And the issue for the Leandro case was, were rural, poor schools in North Carolina, were the kids there getting a sound basic education? Were they coming out of high school ready and prepared for the work they'd have to do? And that was based on our experience in the town. My brother graduated from high school there. I was about to enter high school, and we just realized that the answer was probably more than likely not.
Yeah.
And so the case was, is there a way to force the state's hand and say, you have to pay attention to these rural school districts? And so the case came about really was about money. It was, can we get funding so that we can have science labs? It seems like it seems kind of funny to say that, but can we have a science lab? We need money. We don't have the money to have one. What the case became about was, is there a constitutional right to a sound basic education in North Carolina? And the courts agreed that there was.
So there's a clause in the state constitution about education.
There is. There's a clause in the state constitution, and people had tried to sue on a national level to say, is there a national right? Is there a constitutional right from the federal constitution? And the courts have always said no. And so this was one of the first cases to say, well, let's look at the state constitution. And right there it says that there's an education clause that the state's going to provide a sound basic education. So what does that right mean? Is that something that's enforceable? So we went to the court and said, enforce this right. Make the state pay attention to these schools. Make the state ensure that every kid has at least an opportunity. All we were looking for is a chance. You can only lead a horse to water, right? But we were asking for the water. It's not saying you have to make us all equal. We have to make the most of our opportunity. We just wanted a chance.
And so how did you personally get involved in this case?
It was odd. I was in 8th grade. I was coming home from baseball practice. My mom had picked me up. We knew the superintendent. My family was just really involved in schools. I was a good student. My mom was on PTA. And the superintendent thought of us and said, this is a family that understands the value of education. Maybe they'd be willing to put their name on it. And my mom said, is this something you want to do? At the time, as an 8th grader, you think, what does that mean? What is more money? It's hard to conceptualize that. I'm probably more passionate about it now than I was then. But I knew, at least even that young, that there needed to be some changes. And I thought, well, if they want to put my name on the lawsuit, I'll do it. And I'll get involved any way I can. And so we just decided to do it. It was really fun.
So what was the ruling? When was the ruling handed down, and how long did that take from the time that you were in 8th grade?
Yeah, it took forever. I thought, if we sign this up, we'll have more money for better baseball uniforms next year.
Yeah.
That was just the start of it. The case grinded along. I was in college before the first Leandro decision came out. There's 2 state court decisions. They're referred to as Leandro 1 and Leandro 2. I was just about to enter law school when the second Leandro case came out. So, it was, and even now, it's 16 years later, they're still administering the decision here in Leandro. So, I knew, after about 10th or 11th grade, I knew there wasn't going to be a decision in my time at the school. But I still thought it was important to be a part of it. And so it's years and years.
So are you seeing the effects now? Are we seeing it throughout the state and the education system, the effects of Leandro?
I think you're seeing it on a lot of levels. In terms of test scores and those types of things, I think you see a lot of these rural school districts doing better. But I think more importantly, you see more attention being paid. The issue was raised. The sad thing for me, I think the realization was that it had to go to court. To me it seemed like, why wasn't the General Assembly taking care of this at the time? But it's really easy to ignore these districts. There's not a lot of people there. They're rural. They don't vote for people in Wake County or the people that control the money. There's not that many of them. So for me, I think that's a big thing, is that the state had to say, we've got to find funding. We've got to find teachers. We have to figure out ways to make these schools better because of this decision. And I think that's going to help a lot of people down the road. And it's going to build on itself. It's going to take time, but it's definitely going to build on itself to where these school kids can compete. That's the real issue, is why not create the best school system in North Carolina, and why not let these rural kids get the education they need to compete? It's only going to benefit everyone in the long run. It's going to really make a difference, I think.
Great. And then finally, as a final wrap-up question, in terms of a personal anecdotal story from you being the face of this case, can you share something with us?
Yeah, it was weird when we joined the case. Obviously, the lawyers do all the work, and that's probably, I'm an attorney now, and that's probably why I became a lawyer, is just watching our lawyers do their work and seeing how important their work was. But from our perspective, we were the face, and I was willing to do what I needed to do. And but it sort of fades from your life in the day-to-day. I'm not working on the case, but I was in college, and there was a education policy class that was being taught at the law school. And people asked me, they said, "Oh, there's a case in North Carolina that has your name on it. Do you know who that is?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's me." So the teacher asked me to come and speak, and I was actually able to talk in the class. That was really unusual for me to see my classmates, my fraternity brothers, guys I played on the football team with, listening in on this speech about this, because it wasn't something that I did. And I was once in an elevator and saw and the governor was in the elevator, and I was just wanted to meet the governor. I was excited to. And it was just an introduction. I said, "I'm Robb Leandro," and he said, "Oh, I know who you are. You're famous." And I thought, this is not how it's supposed to work. I'm not famous. You're the governor. I mean, I think those are 2 times in my life that I thought it's always weird to see your name in print. I remember, I think about 2 years ago, I got a call from a kid at Yale Law School who was writing, a law student who was writing a law review article, and he interviewed me. And that's always weird to see the Yale Law Review have an article about our case, but it's just one of those things that happens. It's pretty fun. It's been a good ride.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.